If I got locked away and we lost it all today, tell me honestly, would you still love me the same? If I showed you my flaws, if I couldn't be strong, tell me honestly, would you still love me the same? Right about now. If I joined
Hey, we're 21 Rockstar families, and welcome to our weekly VODCAST. I hope that you enjoyed that extra hour of sleep. It was so awesome to see a few of you out there today at the Barrett White Tiger Run. You know, it was a little rainy, but it was really a nice temperature as opposed to past years, I must admit. So, this past week in Room 21 has been absolutely amazing. You know, on Monday night, all of you came out for our Jurassic World Family Night, which was so incredibly exciting. It was so much fun, building so much community, and you know, it just proved the fact that we are family, as it says over there on the wall. You guys are awesome. I could not ask for better parents for this 5th grade year with your scholar. You know, words cannot even express how grateful I am. So thank you all. This week's Rockstar of the Week goes out to a young lady who has new to Barrett this year, taken the Barrett Academy Constitution, working on that confidence and those greetings in front of others, and really uplifting and encouraging others. And, you know, she always steps in and just takes amazing initiative. So this week's Rockstar of the Week is Miss Sarah Ensley. Congratulations to Sarah, this week's Rockstar of the Week. So a couple of announcements to get to, and then I'll send you right off to the strategy session this week. First of all, coming up on Tuesday, there is no school for students. That is a teacher work day, so I hope that your scholar enjoys their time off. Coming up, probably starting the beginning of next week, we will begin our Native American project-based learning unit. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Your scholar is going to be working in another group to research one of the American Indian tribes from North America to answer the question, how did the American Indians adapt to the land around them? You know, and that goes into how did they live, and that really sets us up for the beginning of U.S. History 1, which we are in the middle of in 5th grade. So, I'm asking you, if you have toilet paper tubes, paper towel tubes, if you have boxes, if you have any type of, you know, I guess we would call it junk, things that you might recycle, we are just creating a huge depository of all of those in our classroom so that the scholars can use those for their project coming up, because basically they're going to be creating a pretty sizable, I don't want to call it a diorama, but it's going to kind of look like that. And they're going to need a ton of supplies for that within their group. So if your scholar can bring in any of those things, that would be awesome. Also, in the next couple of weeks, the Barrett Academy Scholars will be starting our annual canned food drive to benefit families right here around Barrett. You know, the scholars are actually going to be totally organizing every part of it. Starting in Academy time this week, they'll be creating posters and advertisements to put on our morning news, and we will have a table for every single house set up outside of the cafeteria where your scholar can bring in their goods and put them on the house that they would like to, preferably red house, and they'll be able to visually see the race as we go. And then they will be sorting those and preparing those to send those out at the end of the month. So that is also coming up. Just wanted to kind of put that on your radar. One other thing that will be coming home tomorrow is a PTO fundraising packet. If you're interested in buying any of those goods or selling to those around you, all the scholars went to an assembly last Friday with the PTO to talk about that. So they may have come home and talked about that a little bit. You know, all proceeds obviously benefit Barrett, and you guys are amazing supporters of Barrett Elementary and the PTO, so thank you very much. We do have DARE coming up tomorrow, since we do not have school on Tuesday with Deputy Scoggins, and I think that wraps up all of the announcements that I do have for you this week. You know, a little bit shorter week, but we have so much going on. Oh, I almost forgot one final thing. On Wednesday, I will be sending home student-led conference time slots. So the letter that will explain that. So this year, there's going to be a student-led conference where the first 10 minutes of our conference will be totally driven by your scholar, and the second 10 minutes I'll step in and also provide you some information. Those are coming up in a couple of weeks in November, but I will be sending home the time slots for you beginning on Wednesday. So I will send them home fairly to everyone on that day, and I just ask that you mark your first, second, and third choice on that form so that we are able to squeeze everyone in. It is literally one of my favorite times of year, Rockstar families, because I just get to see your scholar really show everything that they've been learning in 5th grade to you. They get to articulate and talk about their learning. It's just an incredibly magical time and just absolutely amazing. Okay, so now I'm going to send you over to the strategy session, and I'll see you guys on the other. Hey Room 21 Rockstars, so I'm starting you off on our class website to show you a bunch of different strategies that you can use this week, especially on your day off coming up on Tuesday, since we have our big science test coming up on Wednesday. So, starting you off right on our homepage, if you actually scroll down right under the link for the weekly VODCAST, I do have an Earth study video. If you just click on this picture of the rock cycle, that will take you right to YouTube with it. I think it's about a 35-minute video, and it includes so many different things that you can do at home to make sure that you get down everything you need for the rock cycle. So on your day off on Tuesday, or tonight, or Monday night, this would be a wonderful resource to use to help you study for our test coming up on Wednesday, because it is going to include everything involving Earth, the plate boundaries, rocks and mineral classification, and also the rock cycle. So all of those different concepts are going to be on there. It is going to be all-encompassing, so you need to make sure that you're studying. I know many of you have been studying each night since the unit began, so I think you're going to be in good shape when the actual test comes up. So now, I'm going to take you over to the VODCAST section, because I do have a ton of strategies for you this week. I was telling you in math that there would be some practice for the fraction, decimal, and percent comparison. So before I show you the links this week, I actually want to take you to this page. Now I have included this page for you here, but I'm going to go over to my major copy that I have, because in class we've been talking about pieces of the whole, okay, and we've been talking about those fractions and decimal equivalencies. And I told you I really want those to become fluent. And we also talked about how, when Mrs. Grigsby was in there, how we want to make sure that if we can get our unit fractions down, then you essentially know all of the other fractions and all of the other decimal equivalencies. So 1 whole would look like this in decimal form, and I'm going to shrink down my type in a second here so that I can fit everything on. 1/2 would be 50 hundredths, okay, or 5/10. 1/4 would be 25 hundredths, or you could even put another zero on and say 250 thousandths. Okay, 1/8 would be 125 thousandths. 1/5 would be 20 hundredths, or 2/10. 1/10 would be exactly as you read it, 1/10. Remember, we talked about, or 10 hundredths. We talked about how the tenths are pretty easy unit fraction to get down, okay? And then 3 that we're going to talk about tomorrow. So we've talked about the whole, the half, the fourth, the eighth. Those have a relationship to one another due to their multiples in the denominator. And then on Friday we talked about the fifths and the tenths. And tomorrow we'll be talking about the thirds, the sixths, and the ninths. And we're grouping all of those together because 3, 6, and 9 are multiples of one another as well. So 1/3, the decimal equivalent for 1/3 is 33 repeating, okay? And I think some of your teachers may have showed this to you last year, but that little symbol above the 3 simply means that that 3 repeats on and on forever. It's not a perfectly even piece of the whole, okay? So there's a little chunk. So technically this 3 goes on and on forever, but kind of like exponents, mathematicians established the repeating sign, that little line above the last number. That way you do not have to write the number out, because honestly that number would go on for infinity, and that is no joke. Okay, and then finally we have the 1/6 and 1/9. 1/6 is approximately 16 hundredths repeating, okay, that's what we're going to establish it as, and 1/9 is one other one that you have to know, and that's about 11 hundredths repeating, okay, so those are the fractions that you have to have down. These are the ones we're going to look at tomorrow, and, you know, as we're going to talk about in class, those are the tricky ones to make sure that we have down. So, like I said, if you can get all these unit fractions down, rock stars, you honestly know the rest of them, and if you remember what we did in class last week, you know, we took 1/8, and then we took 2/8, and then we took 3/8, And I said, okay, tell me the decimal equivalency of each of those. And all that you had to do, because if you know the unit fraction, the unit decimal, 1/8 is equivalent to 125 thousandths. So 2/8 would be 250 thousandths. Okay, all I'm doing each time is adding on the unit decimal. Okay, and then 3/8 would be 375 thousandths. And technically, if you ignore these decimals, you're counting in multiples of 125. So 125, 250, 375, and then 4/8 would be 500 thousandths. Okay, and it would continue going on. So if you can get these unit fractions and decimal equivalencies down right here, you have everything else down. So here is your challenge for the week, ladies and gentlemen. If you scroll down on this paper, and like I said, this is also available on the VODCAST section. I just have the actual document opened up. What you have to do is circle the largest piece in each of these instances. But you have to show your proof for work. So I'll give you a house point for each of them. So say, for instance, you're taking 4/5 and 1/4. Well, they have different denominators, so how can I compare those decimals and figure out what is a larger piece? And I told you my strategy, and I'm not going to push it on you, but my strategy would be to convert fractions into decimals. Okay, so I know 1/4 automatically. That's kind of an easy one that sticks out. 4 quarters and a dollar, right? That's 25 hundredths. But 4/5 is one that I kind of have to think about. So how many times can I divide 100 or my whole evenly 5 times? How big is that piece going to be? Or think about my unit fraction. What is my unit equivalence for 1/5? Well, that would be 20 hundredths. So if I just take that up to 4/5, I would come to find that that is 80 hundredths. And then all I have to do is look at these two decimals. My goodness, 4/5 is the larger piece, okay? So that's what I want you to do for each of them. Like I said, I think you might find success if you convert each fraction to a decimal. Just based on those unit fractions and decimal equivalencies, if you can get these down, rock stars, you have the rest. So pause the screen here, or you can look on the VODCAST section, a house point for each of those. But one thing that I forgot to tell you for the week is, you know, since we have Tuesday off and some of you can get on and different things like that, I am going to make it a double house point week. So everything you do on the VODCAST this week is double house points. So get those fraction decimal equivalencies down and you are going to be rocking and rolling, okay? I have 2 other sites you can look at really quickly to help you with that, and they do involve percentages as well, but you guys are totally capable of that. We've talked about percentages, even though you're not really going to talk about them until next year in 6th grade. These, you're graphing fractions and decimals on the number line. So, for instance, you have to graph 2/10 and 1/10. And so essentially, if you see these little the little circle outline there, that is where you would put that. So 2/10 would be here, and 1/10 would be here, and then you have to talk about which number is closer to 1 whole. Okay, so obviously 2/10 is closer to 1 whole. We're good to go there. You can earn a house point for each of these, but because it's a double house point week, you can get 2 out of that. So as long as you show your work and bring it into me, you'll be good to go there, okay? And there's one other site that you can check out as well, comparing fractions and decimals, and that involves actually just putting the greater than, less than, or equal to sign in between, kind of what we just did, but you have to show your work there, guys, and you have to find a strategy that works for you. So if you have a fraction and a decimal to compare, you might want to convert your fraction to a decimal and then simply compare those. And many of you like to think in terms of money when you're with those decimals, so keep that in mind. That 3/10 is equivalent to 30 cents. Okay, so just keep all of those different things in mind. It's incredibly important, and you will be very successful. We also have our Making Inferences and Drawing Conclusions phone conversations. I always love these guys. I kept them up from last week because I'm not sure many people did these, but once again, a house point for each, and then you can get double house points for the week. All you have to do is look at the conversation. Somebody's calling somebody else and figure out who are they calling. If you remember last week, I used this first example where the kid is calling the pizza place, and you have to identify your evidence as well, and that will help you there. The writing fix of the week is my favorite one of the year so far. This is where you have this phone with all of these apps here, and you guys can actually choose one of the prompts that goes along with that. Some of my students last year were incredibly creative with this. You can earn 5 house points. Double this week would be 10, but keep in mind with this, I would like you to share it during sacred writing time because some of these can be incredibly creative. So this is iPhonus, okay, because it's phony, it's not a real phone, and these are not real apps, but nonetheless, you can really be creative with that and include some hook sentences and sizzling vocab and have a lot of fun. As always, the science materials are here, as well as the link to SOL Pass, but like I said this week, guys, if you go to our homepage, you can get a link directly to the Rock Cycle Earth study video that I created for our assessment coming up on what day? Yes, coming up on Wednesday. And you know, the secret hashtag of the week is not going to make sense to you until honestly a little later in the week, but I want to keep you on the edge of your seat. So this week, the secret hashtag is hashtag wooden box. Hashtag wooden box. And no, it does not deal with the breakout games. I know that came to many of your minds. But hashtag wooden box, think about that. Once again, you can get 5 house points, but because it's a double house point week, you can get 10 for bringing in that secret hashtag. And that, like I said, will make sense a little later in the week. Room 21 Rockstars. Now I'm going to send you back over to Mr. Reichard in person. Okay, Room 21 Rockstar families, I hope that those strategies were successful. I hope that you were able to kind of get a little dose of what we're talking about in class right in your home. We have an amazing week underway. Remember, there is no school on Tuesday for your scholar. It is just going to be absolutely awesome. I don't know if it's going to be able to top last week, but we're going to get pretty close. So, as always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact me. And as always, you all are the very best families in Stafford County, and I'll see you next time.
If I got locked away and we lost it all today, tell me honestly, would you still love me the same? If I showed you my flaws, if I couldn't be strong.